Are refinery ships the future of space mining efficiency in Star Citizen? Well, let's find out. Welcome to our deep dive into the anticipated refinery ships in Star Citizen. Today, JC and Space Coder explore how these ships can revolutionize space mining operations, enhance logistic capabilities, and potentially alter the economic landscape of the game. Don't miss their expert insights on what these changes mean for players and organizations alike.
So, Space, we're here to talk about refinery ships, and that hopefully will be coming out before too long. What excites you the most about the upcoming refinery ships?
So actually, weirdly enough, refinery ships and player refining in general is one of the main upcoming features that I'm very excited about. One thing that's because it just adds one more layer of logistics to mining, and you know I love logistics. And also, it's just going to allow organized groups to really increase their throughput when mining because you can just park a refinery ship next to your mining operation, and all you have to do is cycle in and out mining bags and then cycle out the cargo. And the second thing is that it's going to be at least according to what we know from CIG at the moment, it's going to be a lot faster than refining at a station refinery. Because the difference there is that, the refinery, it waits, or, well, the timer represents that the refinery waits until they fill some amount of refinery capacity and then they refine. But with a refinery ship, you can just do this basically as needed by your mining operation. And the cost for that is that it requires catalysts and it requires direct input from a player that's going to be controlling the refining process. At least that's what we know from the Expanse Q&A, I think covered this most recently.
Sure. Do you think that maybe we'll see people cheating on this? And what I mean by that is do you think there might be an option where we can just filter out the crap, the inert, and immediately shunt it quickly and easily into cargo boxes to send someplace for.
I would actually like to see this as an option, uh, because that way you could actually either just use it that way, just
Yep.
lower the volume of inert stuff to be refined elsewhere, because maybe,
And get it to cargo boxes being the other thing.
Maybe the station refineries will be able to get, because what we see with station refiners that the fast refining processes usually don't have a very high yield. So maybe the station refiners will have a very high yield compared to the ship refineries. Maybe that's the way they will balance it. But also, what it would be an interesting step is, if you combine this. So let's say you have have an expanse, a couple moles of prospectors, and then you have a refinery variant galaxy.
Yep.
So you could actually have the expanse with two people on board on it. So one person can fly, one person can operate the refinery at the same time. Have the expanse be sort of the bag jockey and do the filtering on the way, do the pre-sorting, and then all you get for the galaxy is just bags of pure ore that they don't have to filter. So that removes one step that they have to do, and it actually increases your efficiency on it.
Potentially. But I think the big thing about refinery ships, I don't think that they're going to replace moles or prospectors. I think that they're going to, and they might in some ways, but I think you're going to run into the same problem with them that you have with moles today. You're going to fill them up and then you're going to be waiting
Yeah,
on the refining gameplay.
yeah.
And so my question is how can you, the quicker I can get the stuff off the ship and someplace where I can refine it or sell it without having to come off station, the better from my perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's what refinery ships achieve. And then it's a question of balance of how fast ship refining is going to be and the skill of the person operating the refinery. Because right now we know that there's going to be some preset refinery processes that you just run, but that there's also going to be an element where you can do what you want with it.
Basically, watch the meters and keep them in the
Yeah.
green. Yep.
So we will see how the gameplay is going to work because we have not seen any demo. We just heard them talk about it.
Yep.
in a couple occasions. So we will see what that looks like. But I think we will see a lot of people try to operate small groups where you have a couple prospectors, a cargo ship, and a refinery ship, and they will try to, because what you're trying to do is maximize the time on station. Because right now, when you have a mining ship, it's actually not mining most of the time.
No.
It's
80% of the
flying to the
time is,
refinery.
yep.
It's offloading because it takes like 5 minutes just to get to the refinery deck.
Yep. No, I mean, anything that you can do to keep your miners on station longer,
Yeah.
the better.
So the interesting part for me, or the complicated part, I guess, is gonna be you will need to have someone in EVA swapping out the bags. Now, my question is, are we gonna be able to do this as the ship is mining? So do the bags like all evenly fill up at the same time, or is it like filling up number one, okay, number one's full, filling up number two, and then you can just like seamlessly swap them out as you go? That's my
Well,
question, how they're gonna do it. I would assume, or I would hope, is that they will make this player controllable to whether
hopefully.
all of your bags are filling up or if you're filling them one by one. Just a simple toggle somewhere in there, and we're good. I mean, the mole has a bunch of, and the prospector too actually has a bunch of consoles in the back where you could just put like mining control console,
Yep.
and
So
then give us a way to eject the full bags from the cockpit, maybe.
I completely agree. What other specific features do you think the refinery ships will have that set it apart from others?
So what I would like to see is two things. Number one, refining RMC. Because my understanding right now is that RMC and construction materials is it's kind of like your mixed metals, mixed materials
Hmm.
type of situation. We're like, yes, it's valuable as it is because you can repair ships with it, you can just sell it as it is. But I have heard mentions, and I don't know if this is going to be made official at any point, is that they would maybe like to look into refining these into specific materials to increase value, which I think would be very interesting because that would plug refining into multiple loops. But then you
Yep.
have to adjust for, oh, RMC comes in SCU crates and the Expanse and the refining ships accept mining bags. So, and that's also for me the big issue with the Expanse concept is that it only operates with mining bags. It doesn't actually have a SCU box ejector anywhere on it. You
Yeah.
just yeah, you just put they literally said in the Q&A like you put the refined materials in a washed out saddlebag. That's literally what it says.
Well, I suspect that may change. I think that they're going to have it where it comes out as
I also
crates.
think I think they're gonna have to make it where it comes out and then there's some amount of cargo grid on it where I think they're gonna put like a external cargo grid on it. That's what I think they're gonna do.
Something. So
Uh,
do you
And
think,
the other thing is actually that I would like to see players be able to buy ore, like because you have a bunch of mining outposts all over Stanton, and there's a couple in Pyro as well. And these guys they sell refined metals, refined materials. What I would like to see is for CIG to switch this so that these outposts sell ore as well. And you can just fly your expanse in there, buy a bunch of ore, and refine it on the spot. You're not going to make as much money as if you were mining it, but you have control over what you're refining, what is your raw material, and you also can do this solo because the Expanse is it's a solo ship. So you should have access to operating this on your own,
so
I think.
do you see a market coming up where people are paying for and buying ore
Uh,
instead of running it through? Do you see that happening? Do you see a
I think
market?
there will be people who will try to do this, and there it kind of depends on what gameplay guardrails CAG put in. Because if they go with ownership, then whatever is refined, it belongs to whoever refined it.
Well,
So
yeah, but
if
that's my point. What if you're
yeah,
a miner
And if you're just like selling ore to someone, yes,
Yeah.
I see people doing that.
Or I'm buying the ore and refining it myself and selling the refined
Yes,
product.
absolutely, I see doing that, but I think it's going to be way more common for people to group up beforehand because that
Oh, sure.
way it's way more reliable. Because like, what if the other person screws me over in that exchange?
Well, yeah, but I mean, do you see people taking an active role
As
where
a
it's
risk,
like
yes,
you,
absolutely.
well, no, not maybe inside of an org, maybe it's inside of a playing group, but do you see there being people that are like, hey, I'll just buy your ore right here, right now. I'm in a C2. I'll come out there, I'll give you fresh bags, you give me the ones that have ore in it, and I'll pay you a fixed price.
Yeah, you, absolutely
And then
could
run
work.
that back to your station and put it into your
Yeah,
your
and I mean,
galaxy or
absolutely
whatever that
with
has a refining on it,
yeah,
refinery on it.
I mean, with more organized groups, let's say you're mining, in a more dangerous area or somewhere where it's a little bit more likely to encounter people, and you don't want to risk your big assets in there. You don't want to put your refinery galaxy in there.
Correct.
Just put out a bunch of moles, a bunch of prospectors, and have like Cuddy Black run between them, deliver fresh bags, and take the full ones to the galaxy, which is
Caddy
parked in an
Black's too
armistice somewhere.
small. It's not going to hold the bags. You're going to need something.
I,
I don't even think an MSR can hold the bags.
it can, but you have to do some finessing and you have to lay them down. So
Yeah, but I'm saying, can it hold enough? Can it hold a whole mole worth? I don't think you can get six bags in an
MSR,
MSR.
I think the MSR could actually.
But can I
Depends on how
have?
they depends on how the bags work with the cargo grid.
Yeah,
That's a caveat for me there.
that's the caveat. My understanding is they only sit bottom down in the
Uh,
cargo grid. So I
they
just
should still fit in the MSR. I think it's pretty tall.
that's maybe the
We'll see. We
probably
will
in the
test it
grid.
out
It's
when the
getting
time
it in and
comes.
out of the door that I'm concerned about.
That's a good
I
point.
I'm going to be honest. I see C2s and probably caterpillars because those ships are the easiest to
Yep.
get into position and be able to pull
Yeah.
stuff off.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely the caterpillar because you can just open the doors. It's I think exactly the height of a mole saddlebag
Yep.
plus some headroom. So you could just park it alongside, just pull them in and fly away.
Yep.
Swap out fresh ones. So yes, definitely I see people doing this, but I see it more. You're not going to be doing this with randoms. I think it's going to be more of a, oh, we're in the same org. Let's do this, even though we're not like mining and refining together, but I'm going to buy your ore from you. And I think it's also going to depend on like the going price, how much profit margin everyone wants to make. And we come back to the spreadsheet game because everybody forgets that Star Citizen is all about spreadsheets.
Yes, of course. So, do you anticipate any shifts in player behavior or market trends as a result of refinery ships being tossed into the game?
Uh, I expect a spike in demand for ore because you can sometimes get ore as containers from bounties or from salvage ships. Because right now, all you can do with that is take it to a no questions asked terminals and sell it for an okay amount of money, but it's worth more if you refine it. So if they give us the ability to purchase ore in containers and plug that into a refinery ship or even a refinery, I think we're going to see demand on this.
I
And I
agree.
think we will see, again, a push for people to play as a group because miners want to mine. They don't want to run to the refinery. So I think they will be more eager to group up with someone who has a refinery ship, whether that be Expanse or the Galaxy. Because I think we're getting the Expanse first. I don't think we're going to get the refinery Galaxy anytime soon, even though I really want it. But I think we're getting the Expanse first. So I think
Probably.
we're going to see people trying to group up with others who have the Expanse and then find someone who's going to run the cargo for them and we're gonna see this kind of behavior forming up, and then we're gonna see people be like, oh, I will definitely, I am a refinery ship captain, and I will come over there and buy your ore from you, and then they show up with the Redeemer and a Corsair and be like, yes, hand over your ore, we're not gonna pay you.
So, how might ADI capitalize on the opportunities this presents. What is it that a large organization or a large group is going to have advantage wise when
Again,
refinery ships drop
you
in?
have the manpower, so you can set up in a remote area where no one's gonna bother you, no one's gonna find you. You can mine for hours because you can just, even if you don't do the whole thing where you pull the bag, put it on a cargo ship, fly to a refinery, even if you just like cycle out ships and you have, park the mole between an Expanse and a C1 with folded saddlebags, and you just have one side offload onto the Expanse to refine, and you have other side load in empty saddlebags. Mole flies off, C1 stays in position until they are empty. Expanse flies away out of the line. Next Expanse takes the place, and you
Yep.
just rotate it like this. Just do, uh, you know what my idea on this is. I think you know what the army refueling depots look like the field
Yes.
refueling. That's what I'm thinking for this.
Yes, I
It's-
think that's,
that's
that
what I'm
definitely
thinking.
is something to think about.
And I mean, if the army is doing it, it's a proven concept. So I think because that's what I based my planning on this for when I was running CIM for ADI, that this is how we're gonna run it as a sort of a assembly line where okay, here you offload, here you get your bags, expense is full. Okay, off it goes into a holding area while it refines. And then
So
you do
somewhere
the same
safe.
thing on the other side where the expanse, okay, it is refined, it is ready to deliver the ore, offload on a cargo ship, load in fresh saddlebags, get back in the line to accept ore, and just do this as ad nauseum, essentially.
I completely agree. So to kind of pivot off of that, do you see refinery ships being a major focus of mining focused orgs?
Absolutely. They will have to do this. Now, I have done a video on this on like the structure of a mining org.
Yep,
Uh, I don't know if you've seen it,
I haven't.
but it was a long time ago. But it
It
had some
was. It
very nice
was more
graphics
than a
in there.
year ago.
More than a year, definitely. So right now, mining orgs, all they can do is mine, and I think a lot of orgs, especially smaller ones like under 100 people, they get tunnel visioned on that single activity, but they don't realize that they will have to, especially if they want to be successful as a small group, they will have to do a lot of logistics, either themselves or outsource it.
And
And they will have
outsource,
to,
it's going to come with huge risks.
yeah. And you're gonna have to start securing your refining, your transport back and forth, especially if you wanna. One thing that a lot of people are forgetting about is that if you're mining on site for a very long time, like extended periods, you will have to rotate people in and out. So you're gonna have to set up not only cargo transport, but people transport.
Yep.
You're gonna get people who are gonna get hurt because you're gonna be using gadgets, you're an EVA, might get hurt. You're gonna have to get Casevac somewhere in there.
Yep. You're
And
going to need a
then
command and control ship. They
you're gonna
are
need command and control. You're gonna need refueling. You're gonna need to have a starfarer in there because you are flying around on hydrogen, and that tank is not very big on a mole.
no.
You're gonna need a starfarer to keep it on station if refueling ever gets fixed. So there,
We can only hope.
you know, fingers crossed. 324. So there's a lot of other moving parts besides mining that are going to support you with doing mining, and this logic kind of works with the Expanse because that's a singular ship. With the Galaxy, it gets a little bit easier because the Galaxy A has a larger refinery, B it has quite a bit of cargo.
Yep.
It has a hangar in it, so you can actually do the cargo operations more comfortably. So you can actually, on the Expanse, it's more difficult to simultaneously load or unload refined materials. On the Galaxy, you I believe you load the ore through the bottom into the core refinery, and then it comes out the back into the cargo hold.
And you just open up the cargo bay door
Open
and
up the
toss
cargo
it out.
hold, load it up.
Yep.
Uh,
Toss it out.
and you have crew facilities, and you're not gonna need all the Expanse crew for this. You need one guy to be in the pilot seat and watch the radar. You need one guy in the refinery to do the refining, and you need one guy to be doing the cargo operations. That
You
leaves
sure
you
you
with
don't? I think you're going to need more than that. I think you're going to be looking at 4 people total because you're going to
probably,
want
but
one probably pulling the stuff in that needs to
yeah,
be refined, and the other
if
one,
you're gonna be doing this at once, definitely. But that leaves you with, I think it's 6 crew on the Galaxy. It's 5 or 6. That leaves you with the open crew slot, and you can actually use that to rotate people out depending on how bed logging is gonna work. Uh,
or to man a gun, or to
yeah,
captain the ship, or whatever needs to happen.
or
So,
one of the guys needs to go on a bio break. You have
yeah,
someone who's gonna take their
the
place for a minute.
yeah, the Slack person.
We will see if they bring in more refinery ships in there because you're gonna have. I believe they said there's going to be a refinery module for the Carrack, there's going to be a refinery module for the Caterpillar, which again shifts your equation a little bit because the Caterpillar has a shit ton of cargo space, so does the Carrack.
Yes.
And then you get to the big leagues, and stop me if you have questions on this. You get the Orion, and that's where fun begins.
Oh yeah. I mean, as soon as they give us the Orion, it's over. I mean, you're going to need a large group.
Yeah,
You're an Orion operation that you want to, because I mean, that ship is huge. It's going to take forever
it, it
to
it's huge. It doesn't need a lot of crew. I think Orion is 8 crew, so
8 or 9.
you don't need a lot. I
Yeah,
think
but
8 or 9. It's very
but
small crew for how big it is.
yes, but the support crew you're going to
Again,
need.
you come back to like, oh, if you want to, it's expensive. It's a capital ship. Capital
Yep.
ships are expensive to operate. Lots of people forget about this. This is my favorite point to bring up with the people who have like, oh, I have 3 Idrises in my fleet. I'm like, how are you going to pay for that? That's a capital ship. That's going to cost you a lot of money. Uh,
Well, I mean, yeah, but the flip side of that is it's the money, but it's also the head count because
yeah,
it's not just the ship, it's the support
it's
ships.
this, and that's kind of the fun with Orion is that yes, you have your mining, refining, and cargo in one space on one ship operated by one crew, which is great.
Yep.
But you still need refueling. You still need security because that thing is going to have to be on station 24/7 because it's going to be extremely expensive to bring it
I
out.
don't know. I mean, I don't know 24/7, but you're going to need to stay on station. When you pull it out, you're going to need to stay on station for 4 to 6
Yeah.
hours.
And you're not going to be like pulling it out for, a small deposit. You're going to be, oh, ENS has found a large deposit somewhere in uncharted space. We're going to show up with 3 Orions and we're going to mine it to exhaustion.
Sure. Or you're going to find something that is, very low
Low
profit margin.
quality, high volume.
Yeah, lots
And
of
then again, you
volume.
have to set up people logistics, cargo logistics, fuel logistics,
Yep.
and security.
But I don't
So
see you taking the Orion into Atmo very much. I
I
think
don't think it can. I don't think it's even able to.
I can't land, but I don't see why it couldn't go into Atmo. I mean, you bring a
I
Javelin into Atmo,
true. That's true.
so why wouldn't you be able to bring an Orion in?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
I
sure
don't.
someone's gonna try and someone's gonna crash their Orion doing it.
Oh, I'm sure they will, and I'm sure there's lots of things that will go wrong in that space.
That
But
someone's gonna be me in the Iwakari PTU.
but I mean, at the end of the day, there's no reason to, um,
Yeah, absolutely. The having
because
it in one platform, all of it, it really gives you the ability to process insane amounts of volume. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's low grade because right now, and I think it's going to be a follow-up question, but we already got into it. Right now, when you're mining, you're really focusing that, top 5 most expensive ores. You got
yep,
Quantanium, Laranite, Theranite, and all the others. And the low grade stuff, iron, copper, corundum, you leave it behind because it's not worth anything.
correct.
But you're leaving it behind because you can't mine it in enough volume to make it profitable compared to the small volume, high value stuff. Once refining comes in, you can actually start thinking, economies of scale start working in your favor.
Well,
And
I mean, the instant that you have your logistics train set up, the
yeah,
economies of scale work right there.
yeah,
Before refinery, it's an issue of logistics.
yeah,
Once you have the ability to change saddlebags in orbit on the fly without slowing things down substantially,
yeah. And
um,
that's gonna be 324, hopefully.
hopefully. But once that happens, then every minute that you're not on target is a minute you're wasting.
Yep.
So you would prefer to hoover up the lower
Yep.
value stuff, you
Especially
know,
if you can refine it nearby or on the spot.
sure. And my concern that I think you're going to find is that I question how much benefit you're going to get from refinery ships versus how much benefit you get from just setting up your logistics train, because the amount of time it takes me to fly a cargo ship with extra saddlebags back to a refinery, drop off the full bags, pick up more fresh bags, and get back on
Yep.
station. Am I going to have more throughput doing that over anything short of the Orion
Yep.
level refinery?
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's absolutely a valid question. And the answer is we don't know.
we
I
just
don't
don't
think
know.
I
I
don't
mean,
we
it's
don't know, and CIG don't know, definitely.
yep.
So
No,
it's again going to come back to the question of balance, and again it's going to come back to skill,
yep,
because you might have a very good refinery crew where it's a galaxy, they're really tuned in, they know what they're doing, and they can get it done.
sure,
But you also might have like a couple guys in a freelancer who can just like come in and swap out your saddlebags in 2 minutes. It's
yep.
so it's going to be kind of a
It's a what?
multi-stage logistics versus a Formula One pit stop
Yep.
situation.
And it's also going to be a question of how long are you off station and do they fill
Yeah,
up in that amount of time? You're going to have a long enough
yeah,
logistics train that basically you can have a tender on site
yeah,
within a minute or two of
yeah.
them being ready to unload.
So yeah, so it really comes back to skill training and how you set up the operation
Yep.
and how many people you have. Because the more people you have on this, yes, it's gonna swell your logistics train, but if you have your logistics set up, you can actually expand the mining side of things and just again, economies of scale. If you increase your
Yep.
throughput, economies of scale start working for you, and that's
Yes.
beautiful.
And we know
Uh,
that from salvage in particular,
Yeah,
where we have this, where we've been able to keep people on station for 2, 3, 4 hours
yeah,
without having to stop.
yeah.
And so, my last question to you is, what are the potential risks and rewards of operating these refinery ships in contested areas? Do you think that it's ever going to make sense to have one in an area where it's at risk?
I actually think it makes more sense in a risky area because again, you're playing into throughput, and there is the assumption that risk reward. So in risky areas, there is going to be more expensive ore. So if you have refining capacity nearby or on site, you have the ability to extract more. But that adds that layer of, okay, I am not just risking my mining asset, I'm also risking my refining asset. And you have two options here. Option one, set up security on the location, come in force, and lock it down and protect your mining and your refining and your cargo assets.
Yep.
Your other option, which I think is going to be a bit easier, is have your mining assets in the contested area and have your refining assets somewhere that is safe or more easily defended. And then either have the
Better
mining
hid
assets
or
do the
better
trip
hidden too.
and better hidden, and either have the mining assets go back and forth or have a fast, agile, low profile cargo ship doing the run for you. Now, what you could do, which I think could be an interesting thing to look into as an org, is have a temporary outpost set up where you set up heavy defenses, heavy AA, heavy air support. You'll land one or two galaxies with a refinery on them, and then you just cart in ore from around the place.
But if they let us do that, if we could start building those, one of the first buildings they're going to give us is a refinery building.
Yes, but if you're
Why would,
doing like a quick
oh, a
output build,
quick one? Yeah, well, but I mean, probably from a cost perspective, building a semi-permanent one versus a
again,
galaxy,
we will have to see. It might because
that's going to be a balancing act.
and the other thing here is that to build a base, you're going to need materials. So if you're building and you have a refinery, then just, park a refinery, park a construction ship in there, and
Sure.
just bring in ore and build as you refine from what can be built, and fly out what you have to sell, bring in materials you can't refine. So uh, it's gonna mitigate some of your construction costs this way, actually.
It would potentially.
So one of the
So,
things you could do with it.
well, that brings us to the end of the discussion on refinery ships. I mean, I
Nice.
think.
That
Do you
that
have
was fast.
any last words on anything we didn't cover that you think we should?
No, I think we talked about risk reward. We talked about big refinery. We talked about Orion and logistics, and we talked about base construction and materials. Yeah, I think we covered all we know about refining right now. I would
I
like to
agree.
see some other refining ships. I would like to see, because we kind of have, the Expanse as the small, and then you have the Galaxy
Galaxy, which
where
is a
it's
large, and then
large,
the
but
Orion is huge.
and then you have the Orastra. We forgot the Orastra in
Oh,
between, where
that's
it's
true.
it's a smaller Orion. I like the concept. I don't like how they market it.
Well, we'll have
I
to
made a
see.
video on it. It's on my channel if you guys want
Well,
to hear me rant about that. But
so as your closing remarks, shout out your YouTube channel because you've got some of the best theory crafting YouTube videos out there. So where can people find you on YouTube?
I will never get tired of you saying nice things about me. So guys, if you like to listen to me talk about things Star Citizen, uh, I have a YouTube channel. It's at the Space Coder on YouTube. Very easy to find me. I put out videos every week on average. I really try. I also do a live show every 2 weeks where I have people call in and we discuss topics of Star Citizen. And it's all theory crafting, all doing research, and you don't see my face very often. It's mostly just cinematic footage, because if I had to record everything with my face, it would take days. And yeah, go subscribe, go
Well,
go do things for the algorithm.
Space Coder, thank you for joining us. I
Thank you
really
for having me.
appreciate you doing this. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you in the verse.
Interested in more cutting-edge discussions on Star Citizen's dynamic universe? Click the link on the screen to watch JC and Havoc discuss Squadron 42's impact on the Star Citizen community and its potential introduction to consoles, exploring new player demographics and game strategies.